This is The Healthy Healer, where true voice is your medicine. This is where we help doctors and other healers navigate through the challenging times by learning from the best minds in the healing industry. Laugh, cry, and be surprised. It's entertainment, education, and inspiration so you can continue to be the unique and amazing healer you were destined to be. Welcome to humanity. Welcome to The Healthy Healer with Dr. Fred.
Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Fred Moss, and this time I need to identify myself because we actually have another Fred on the show tonight. And not only do we have another Fred, we have another bald Fred. And not only do we have the bald Fred, we have a bald Fred who calls himself a transformational coach. So it's going to be hard for me to actually distinguish me from him during the episode. I'm going to have to remember which one is me. I'm on the left of the screen as I speak right now. And so that will be what I'll use as my touchstone to realize who I am and who this man is. The opportunity today is for me to introduce you to an amazing person who has really come up with a theory and then a methodology to help people get through difficult times in life. The idea is that Fred is a serial social entrepreneur, multidimensional life and business solution coach who has 5 decades of experience. Now, you all know that I talk about my 4 decades. So this is a man who's got actually one more decade than me and has me by about 5 years as being on this planet. But what's so cancer is what we're going to learn a little bit about today. And Fred has really designed methodology or an attitude or a theory or maybe an approach to what it means to be a human having difficulty in life with human issues and struggles, and has called it soul cancer. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my namesake, Dr. Fred DeFalco. Fred, welcome to the Healthy Healer.
Dr. Fred, thank you, my friend. Thank you. I was very anxious to meet you. After all, I read about you and the work you're doing. It's fantastic to be here.
All right. Really great to have you. So we're going to launch right in, and thank you for that acknowledgement. I receive it with respect and honor. And here's what we have. I want to ask you a question that you may have heard me ask if you listen to any of my previous podcasts. It's a 9-letter question that's fully grammatically correct and really sometimes puts people back on their heels, but I can tell it's not going to do that for you. Question is easy at some levels, but not a simple answer. And here you go. The question is, Fred DeFalco, who are you?
I am exactly who God created me to be.
Beautiful.
That's who I am. And it's taken me about 62 years. It took me about 62 years to realize that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about who God created you to be. And, I get it. It takes about 62 years to realize that. Because I about realized it earlier this year. It took me an extra 2 years, 64, 65 years. And the opportunity is really take a peek at what is this thing that God created you to be? Can you give us some adjectives or some sense of self that can help us shine a light on who Fred DeFalco now knows that God created himself to be?
Yeah, I say I'm living in an area of the United States, Boca Raton, Florida. It's very wealthy, very affluent, and I don't belong here from my background because I started in the slums of Baltimore. And a lot of people, they look at all the success that people accumulate, and I was very fortunate. I accumulated the same thing, and then when all circumstances make all that disappear, then you start looking at other things and go, "How did I get there? Why did I get there? What got me there to the very top of the mountain?" And with the high net worth and all the stuff and everything else is not being good enough. And I never realized that and couldn't figure that out. And then I started looking, I go, wait a minute, looking at every belief system I'd ever established. And I was a part of an organization for 35 years. As soon as I started asking questions, I was asked to leave. So things got really deep for me around 2000, right? Which is 23 years ago. And I started questioning everything and looking at everything. And I had always been that way. I was the last of 6 children. I was always looking and going, why is there so much conflict? Why is there so much this? Why I was sexually abused as a kid. And of course, that puts you in a certain mindset as well. So I was always questioning everything in one way. I found faith in Christianity when I was a young kid, 18 years old. That saved me from the life of 2 brothers. One went to prison for life, died after 28 years. Another brother, he went in and out of prison, eventually hung himself at 48 years old. So I was really always looking for the truth. I was a juvenile kid when some of my other friends were doing some really horrible things. I remember us breaking into a church one time, and after I got in there, I wouldn't take anything. So there was always this tap going on, as one of my friends, an author, calls it, the tap. But the defining thing is that that I wrote a manuscript in 1989 called Success, the Artful Management of Failures and Setbacks. And that philosophy, the artful management of failures and setbacks, I started realizing that no one's really successful if they're not artfully managing all the failures and setbacks in their life. And I took the concept from my business, where you had to go through an awful lot of no's, because I've taught salespeople all my life in the real estate realm. And what I realized is that those who were truly successful, didn't matter their net worth. It was, how did they artfully manage failures and setbacks,
Yeah.
which life is more full of that. So I'm just a real specialist in understanding life from a different perspective. And then what came after that, the transformation in theology, the transformation in psychology, the transformation in psychiatry, which I studied a lot. But I just kept seeking the truth. And that truth came in ways that I would have never imagined. I don't know if you had a chance to read my story on my website. My 40-year marriage, all that manuscript almost became a roadmap for God to fulfill the success, the artful management of the failures and setbacks. That started in 1989, never got printed, but God was imprinting it on my heart. Life, universe, whatever you're comfortable with, call it, divine intelligence, divine integrity. And it's amazing that in 2011, when I was very well off in the real estate realm and owned a lot of real estate in 5 different states, and hotels and developments and everything else. And during the crash and after the crash, I actually saved my company. But then it started unraveling again because of a hedge fund that was involved in some of the lending. So 2012, to bring it, I know it's a long answer, but to bring this concept, success, the artful management failure, together, I looked in 2012 and I go, oh my gosh, my life, it doesn't seem to work. This is not real, God. There's something going on here. So I said to my wife of 40 years that we had always had our struggles. Nothing in my life has worked. It doesn't seem like it's worked. I know that divine into God. I know that he works. Everything is good still, but I'm not good. And there's something that I got to figure out. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to rip it all up. I'm going to throw it up in the air. I'm going to let the pieces fall down, and I'm going to see where they land. And then I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to work on trying to put them all together again. I'm just going to throw them up in there, and hell, whatever time it takes, I'm going to figure this thing out. And that led to a divorce in 2013. Every January from 2012 on, that was January 2013, we divorced after 40 years. 2014 in January, 36-year-old daughter developed flu and pneumonia mixed, and it killed her. 2015, 2016, every January was crazy. So anyway, the truth of life kept getting brighter and brighter. My circumstances got worse and worse, but the light got brighter and brighter. Then I was introduced to A Course in Miracles 5 years ago, 6 years ago, which radically changed my life. I was introduced to Dr. Bruce Lipton, studying epigenetics. That radically transformed my life, the first 7 years of life. And I'd always been volunteering in prisons since I was a kid, because I think I told you when I first started out, 4 years old, was in a mental health institution with a brother 5 years older than I, one that had sexually abused me, being sentenced to a mental health institution at about, I guess he was 9 years old at the time. So anyway, I was involved in prisons all my life, prison work, and I've stuck by people on death row. I worked with mothers who murder their children. Anytime I would see a need, I would get involved because I was able to do it financially, not from some real big thropic way, but just in my own way of getting things done. And so I got into the mental health space just by practically working with people that come from that area. I dropped out of the 8th grade. I spent 3 years in the 8th grade and 5 years in juvenile jail. And I had more of juvenile jail than I did school, but it just seemed like my mind and the calling from divine intelligence, divine integrity just kept leading me that way. And I still do that today. So social entrepreneurship to me was, I worked very hard to help society, to try to bring healing to society. So recently, I guess about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, one of my clients that probably one of the worst, best people I've had, has everything in the world going for her, but yet her life is a disaster. And I said, man, it's deeper. I said, this is like a cancer. So I have this community of about 500 people on Facebook called Mind Body Mastermind Community. I said, it's deeper because everyone I started coaching, I started having these, dude, they're really improving, but not to the point where who they really were. So, and I said, it's MBS, it's mind, body, soul cancer, mind, body, soul cancer. So then I said, let me just boil it down to soul cancer. And then when I looked at it, it has very seldom been used. It was used in the area of depression a little bit, but no one had soulcancer.org. They had soulcancer.com for sale for $20,000, but I wasn't sure why soulcancer.org was thinking. I said, I'm going to start an entire organization on soul cancer. And I finally realized it's all based on belief systems. And I've read some of your stuff, Dr. Fred, and was that the treatment is not always, hey, here's a pill and here's this and here's that. And it's really the belief systems. And when you can get people to think, and that's where my healing came from, is just really committing to saying, wait a minute, I don't know anything. Of course, the miracles teach us, I don't need to know anything. I don't want to know anything. I just want to see. I just want vision. So that's success is the artful management of failure is my life story. I'm still doing it. My 40-year marriage went back 7 years later. And divine intelligence is amazing. God is amazing. When I left my wife for 40 years, just because of issues, what was interesting is that I ran into the most amazing woman in the entire world as far as a human being's concerned. Of everything, she was identical to me. She was Libra. She was a real estate developer, had lost a lot of money. She was going through very hard stuff. I took her through a chapter 11 because I was an expert at it because I had 5 of them. And there was nothing that was lacking. Nothing. It was pure power. It was pure magic. Every time we were together, but it wouldn't work. Why? Because she was a twin flame and not a soulmate. And I left my soulmate, and the twin flame was there just to make me brighter and make her brighter. And the way her story has transpired, mine. And people say, wait a minute, hold on a second. You mean to tell me God? I'm just saying is that it's interesting when you're really seeking truth, truth comes. And the truth is, it is all about inside the skin feeling, inside the skin understanding from the inside out. And what I've done with the soul cancer thing is finally got people to realize that their belief systems have them trapped, and taking the epigenetics of Dr. Bruce Lipton, mixing it all together and understanding until they're willing to break their belief system and challenge every thought, challenge anger. Anger is threatened value. Challenge frustration. If you're frustrated, it's your soul just saying, hey, there's something more, right? So, and the people who commit to really challenging their thinking are the ones that get the healing faster.
Yeah. So the people who are interested in challenging their thinking are the ones who get to the edge or get to their outcome faster, or get to their soul faster, get to the beginning of what the end is, actually get to the space where they can become the person that God intended them to be as well. So we start looking at what your life is. I took some notes and I didn't take it all, but I have some of it. Different things, trials and tribulations, hurdles and obstacles that you've had in your life. Certainly a hard upbringing. You have your brothers, both of which are now passed away. One of them dying in prison, the other one actually suiciding at 48 years old. And then you have finding God and being very, very fortunate about finding God at 18 years old and having that save your life. Then you have many other areas as well, including the multiple financial failures. You have this idea of running into Bruce Lipton's work and running into the Course of Miracles. And as the circumstances get darker, your truth got brighter, and studied a lot of different things in theology and psychology and psychiatry. And then you had the loss of a child to also speak of as well, shortly after a divorce of a marriage that lasted 40 years. And all of these things point to things that none of us actually wish upon ourselves.
Right.
We don't wish this on our friends. We don't wish this on our loved ones or our family. These are trials and tribulations that appear to be things to avoid that we shouldn't have in our family or shouldn't have in our lives. And you've had many of them, and including these years as a child in juvenile detention and doing the 8th grade a bunch of times before finally dropping out. All of these things point to somebody who's been released, is what I'm hearing. Released into the
Right.
world. And there's something about this idea of looking at mind, body, soul And getting that soul cancer is what is, it's like a cancer at the bottom here that prevents us from actually finding our soul, our untethered soul, if you will,
Oh, Jess.
our soul that is really here to touch and locate and embrace. And you have found yours. You very proudly and openly and honestly state that you have become the man that God intended you to be, and that it took 62 solid years to get you there. So the idea here is, what should we learn from you directly about the trials and tribulations that come with a hard life? Are these things that we should lean into? Are these things that we should respect and honor? Is it absolutely a universal truth that as the circumstances get more difficult, that the truth gets brighter? And are you really just here to see, as Course in Miracles is brought forward to look to consider? What should we learn about the trials and tribulations that we're going through, not only individually, but as small groups, as society, really as the world right now sits on the brink of so many breaking points? What is it that we can learn that has us be able to address this thing that you're calling soul cancer, so that we can have access to our untethered and fresh soul?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things, and you just said most of it, but one of the things that we got to understand about life, about ourselves is, and I do the same thing, we become the person God intended you to be. It's deeper than that. And then you've got to picture yourself as we came in. First of all, we got to stop internalizing everything and anything in our lives. The internalization of anything, the good, the bad, love. If you try to internalize because you're madly in love with somebody and you internalize that, as soon as something happens to that, boom, but then what happened? So we have to eternalize everything. Is that we are eternal beings, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. As soon as we can really believe that, everything disappears. The stress and it's got to be this way, got to be that way, got to be this way. Not that you don't worry, not that you don't sometimes go back to that, the ego and the soul, that battle. And we don't have time to let me show you some of my slides and understand how I show people how that left side is the ego, the right side is the soul, and the left side is the temporal, the right side is the eternal. But we got to eternalize everything. And the way I do that is I always tell everybody, if we were talking, you go, oh my gosh, blah, 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 and I always look at them very seriously, especially if it's if they don't know me, because everyone that knows me knows what I'm going to do to them. And I always go, let me ask you a question. How does it feel? Oh my God. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, wow. Oh, and I just really get them to intensify. And I go, let me ask you seriously. And so you're 65, right? 66. Yeah. I would say, hey, Dr. Fred, let me ask you a really serious question, please. How did it feel 70 years ago? How did it feel? What did you think about it 70 years ago? You go, well, that's ridiculous. But seriously, let's talk about it. And I got a follow-up question to that. How's it going to affect you? And how's it going to feel? And what do you think you're going to think about it 65 years from today? And I try to get them to have perspective, is that all these things that we think are wrong, life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And I'm not the one that said that. Tony Robbins is not the one who said it. That's been being said for hundreds and hundreds, thousands and thousands of years. Life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And it's a belief system, right? So if I believe that all my challenges and that are going on are happening to me instead of happening for me instead of to me, then it changes that. I'm not internalizing. That's important. Internalization is ugly. Now I know we meditate. I meditate. If you look at Mind Body Mastermind in Facebook, and I encourage all your listeners to go look up Mind Body Mastermind in Facebook, Fred DeFalco, and join the community, because we have a blast in there. In this month, we're doing 10-minute silence every day. Are my inner thoughts, is my inner voice more illusions or reality? And most of the stuff is illusionary, right? Is that it's so temporary. So once we could do that, is to eternalize versus internalize. That's the key, because that internalization, good, bad, and indifference. I get a lot of money. I have a client right now. They really did so well a year ago that things changed and it was like, boom, and they started internalizing it. And they did. Now, somehow, some way, divine intelligence, whoop, they're not ready yet, or whatever happened. Oh my gosh, you ought to see the disaster now. It's like they're ready to jump off the bridge. And because they internalized the wealth, they internalized the abundance, and the abundance all of a sudden disappeared in a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, 2 years, over the last 2 years. And instead of eternalizing it. So that's, and the other soul cancer is that we hold on to anything as a belief system. I wish I could do away with the word belief in the English language, because we really just should be neutral. John Lennon's song, if you would have asked me 20 years ago about John Lennon, I would have said he was a heretic with the song Imagine, because of my belief systems and I was a theologian, right? I dug so deep, and I've studied the Quran. I've studied, of course, I was doused with Christianity, but it's amazing. I think John Lennon's song is not only very possible, I think it's inevitable, because universal theology, universal politics, universal psychiatry, universal psychology is impossible. But universal love and an experience of that love is not only possible, it's inherent in all of us, even the people that are bombing people. I studied the terrorists, and a lot of their parents, even though their belief systems raise their kids to be suicide bombers, they still have that emotional love that is so buried down. So what happens is our original version, the perfect version, That's, have you watched the movie The Shack?
No.
Oh my gosh, watch the movie The Shack. And all your listeners, you've got to watch the movie The Shack. It is the most revealing story. And that came from crisis. It was a missionary son who was sexually abused in Africa over the years. His father was a radical Christian and blah, 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 blah. But he wrote the movie The Shack as a love letter to his children about his life story, right? But what happens is that these belief systems, no matter what they are, the good, the bad, the ugly, they take that original version God sent us here with of perfection, because I believe that we're all perfect, that there is no sin. I just believe there's mistakes. And I believe the world was healed when 2,000 years ago, the world was healed. Adam brought all the condemnation and sin, and Christ brought all the righteousness, and we're all righteous, but we just don't know it. It's just our programming. And then what happens, that programming that we got, not the programming, but what we got is our original version. All that belief system, if you look at it like we came here, up here, that's why everyone loves babies. And they kiss them and they love them and everything's wonderful and because they're still the original version. One belief system, second belief system, third belief system, fourth belief system, fifth belief system. Somebody yells at your school, someone sexually abuses you, and then it's just at different degrees. My brother hung himself because he had reached the fourth degree. He had stage 4 soul cancer, and it went into stage 5. Before, as soon as it goes to stage 5, you're going to put a rope on the ceiling. You're going to take a gun. You're going to go blow people up. All these kids in the city. I'm working on a thing right now called Juvenile Justice from the Inside Out. All these kids. I just had a grandson. He went out, did something so crazy at 17 years old. He had to go away for 18 months. And here I say to my kids that I raised with the belief systems of Christianity. Now, I'm not criticizing Christianity. There's all the beautiful things of Christianity, but there's also these ugly things that bury the real natural person God sent us to be, that authentic, transparent, vulnerable, that real soul, right? So we are everything we need to be inside, but it's just weighted down with belief systems. So when you take one off, your soul will come up. You take another one off, your soul comes up. You take another one, and pretty soon you're totally free from anything on the outside. The other thing I was introduced to, I failed to mention, was Attitudinal Healing International. There's a little book called A Mini Course for Life really a cool little book. It's 18 lessons only. It's all based on A Course in Miracles. I teach that in my Mind Body Mastermind every month. There's 18 lessons. And Attitudinal Healing International, because it's all about the universal love and the universal experience, and removing these belief systems, almost like an onion, one piece at a time. And you may say, wait a minute, my faith that I was raised with, let's say if you're Jewish, I'm in Boca Raton, there's 52%, the population is 52% Jewish. I love my Jewish friends. I love my Muslim friends. I love all my friends. Soulcancer.org, if you look on there, my mission in the world is help the world fall in love with love. But it's like an onion. You peel it off one layer at a time, one layer at a time, one layer at a time. It's okay to have a belief system because it's historical or it's just part of your heritage, fine. But don't let that control your soul, because the ego loves belief systems. The most comfortable time in my entire life is when I was a radical Christian that had a box going and I was good. And Everyone just was honoring me, and I was giving a lot to the church. And I had that box, and boy, that box felt comfortable because I didn't have to think outside of it. But inside that box, it was miserable. That there wasn't a real person in there. It was a program. There was a robot, right? And the robot kept banging against the walls like a caterpillar. Belief systems are the cancer. That's the
Yeah,
cancer.
that's what I was wondering, if you are equating belief systems to the cancer, exactly. And
Absolutely.
so, with cancer, there's a couple things that we do. I'm not sure I'm like any of them, but this idea of either burning it or poisoning it or cutting it off entirely. That's like all we do with cancer. But what is the actual methodology to remove these belief systems?
That's a great question. Wow, that's a powerful question. Fantastic question. As a young salesperson, business person, I've been so blessed to be exposed to some of the people. I was exposed to Zig Ziglar and his Born to Win program as a real young real estate salesperson, and became certified in Born to Win. And one of the things Zig Ziglar used to use an analogy all the time is counterfeit money, right? Counterfeit money. And I don't know if it's factual or not, but it's the way, no matter what Zig stories he told, everyone listened just the way he told them. He's such a beautiful man. But anyway, he would say they never train people in counterfeit money. They only train them in real money. So when they come across a counterfeit bill, they can feel it immediately and they'll know it's counterfeit. So I think the first thing you got to do, whether whatever belief systems people are in, it could be religious, it could be psychological, it could be, I go through a battle. I have a daughter who has a mental health clinic. She does counseling. She has 50 counselors that work for her. We have the biggest struggle. But what you have to do, is your belief system worth it, working? Are you comfortable? If you wear certain garments because of your belief system, every time you put it on, do you feel beautiful? Does it feel blissful? Does it feel natural? And if it doesn't feel natural, that's the first clue. I want to feel natural. I want to feel naked in a proper sense. I want to feel free. I want to feel free. I still remember this day. I remember when the door shut, when we're getting in, and my friend was saying, who hadn't seen me about 5 years, they showed up in my big, beautiful office. They showed up in my big, beautiful convertible. And they said, Fred, oh my God, wow, it's amazing how you've accomplished this. Have you accomplished this? And you did this and you did that. And now you've got that. And Jay started going on. I'm listening. I said, Terry, I said, you may see it that way, but I'll tell you, I would just love to be nothing one day. And here I was. So the belief systems is like an onion, right? And we don't want to touch them sometimes. We don't want to. I have a coaching client married 22 years. They have not had sex in 17 years, and they're staying together for the kids. Where did that belief system come from? Where did that belief system come from? Come on. So, and again, is she bad? Is she, no, it's just, there's some kind of belief system there. So as we started peeling those onions off, by the way, Fred, I got to tell you this miraculous story the other morning, just quickly. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed. After 7 years, I went back with my ex. We tried it for 2 more years. It didn't work. My ex had still an issue with prescription medications all her life. My deal was I was a serial codependent. I was a master codependent. I was a benevolent dictator, because just the way I really believe. So so now we tried 2 years. It doesn't work. Okay. And so just a year ago, last September, there's issues that led up to her getting ill. You can read the story on my website, DeFalcoCC.com, under my bio and my story. She starts getting sick, led up into literally dying. She got committed to hospice. And the night that she was committed to hospice, I spent 19 hours with her around the clock, just full of love, full of grace, full of mercy, and then the other thing, taking over what they had done to her with the medications. I flushed her with organic juices and waters, and I made her drink because her kidney shut down. Literally, that started at 5 p.m. Literally at 9 a.m., her bag was full of white pea, and her bladder started working. Her kidneys got jump started. Her life got jump started. They had stopped the medications, which helped. And the doctor walked in and said, "What are you doing here?" Well, we're back together since that day, and we'll never be apart again. I've never been so madly in love and happy and blissful. She's 5 years older than I am. From the lack of her exercise, lack of whatever, all the stuff she's done. She's 90. Some people say, "Hey, you're a mom." I shouldn't say she's 90. She'll kill me when she hears that. She's like 85. And we love it. We just love our story. We love who we are. We love what because we got finally back to our original version.
Yeah.
First time in her life, she's been prescription drug free. She had a belief system in the doctor. She had a belief system. When I was in hospice trying to save her, my 3 kids that are remaining fought me every which way. They fought because they had a belief system that I was going against the medical profession. And I was this evil person, so evil, they called the police and had me removed from my house one day. So, but now, does that make them evil people? No, it's belief systems. And I honor that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's really a great way to look at cancer, really a great way to look at the management of failures and setbacks. Fred, if people want to work with you now that you've really exposed what you're up to, and they want to find you on Facebook or find you somewhere, maybe get a discovery call with you or learn what it would take to actually be on the other side of receiving coaching from you. Where I get that over your shoulder there, you have a number of different websites. Where might they find you?
You can find me anywhere on social media, but the main thing is go to Mind Body Mastermind on Facebook. Mind Body Mastermind, Fred DeFalco. There's a couple of them go by that name, but it's truly that name, Mind Body Mastermind Facebook. It's a group. So you could join that, number one, if you can't afford coaching immediately. But with your discovery call, I do monthly payments for people, anything I can do to help, as much as my calendar can handle. And then my website, DeFalcoCC.com. Soul Cancer, there's a form there, soulcancer.org. There's a form there. Just fill that out. And I'll take any call, and I do all the calls myself. Yeah, I would go to soulcancer.org and fill the form out.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Really great, Fred. Thank you so much for being part of the Healthy Healer team. It's really been wonderful interviewing you and conversing with you and really getting where you come from and how you got here and what you're up to and what your soul is about and how to get other people to find their soul. So thank you for being exactly that guy.
You are welcome. And on the Mind Body Mastermind, read the story of the 70-year-old giraffe and the 75-year-old zebra.
All right.
That came to us one morning like that. She showed up randomly with a cup that had a zebra on it, and I had a giraffe on mine. I said, there's something to that. Read that story. It's about 5 pages, but it's a beautiful story of our life.
Will do. Thank you so much, Fred.
I'm really looking forward to doing some work together.
Let's do that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Fred. We'll talk to you again. And thanks for being on the show. And for the listeners, thank you for taking on the 2 Freds today and learning a little bit about what a transformational coach can look like from a business world and what it really means to step into removing those layers of the onion and getting to your real soul. Fred, thanks again.
You're welcome.
On the flip side. Take care, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.